Welcome to another tutorial about the wavestate native. In this tutorial we are going to look at some extra lanes of the wave sequence and what you can do with it. When you load the wavestate you get the default preset. So let's load up a new init performance. It's just like in the other tutorials. Init performance. Double click it. And now we have a basic new wave sequence. So this time we are going to look at the gate lane and the step sequence lane and what you can do with it when you create your own sounds. So what are the gate lanes and the step sequence lanes? Well, basically the gate lanes determines the length of the notes, and the step sequence is a free to use value that you can use on any parameter in the wavestate native for that layer. So let's create a trance gate, for instance, on a supersaw. So we do the same as in the previous tutorial, so I'm going to do this rather quickly. We are going to create a rhythmic pattern. So activate the tempo, set the timing lane to off, and let's create 2 16th notes and 1 8 note, and repeat that. If you have no idea what I'm doing now, then watch the rhythmic tutorial to get all the insights about all the steps needed to create rhythmic patches. So we've created a 2 16th note and 1 8 note pattern now. So let's hear it. So let's create a supersaw type of trance gate. Go to the synth section and select, for instance, syn hype saw. A very standard sound, and it's not interesting at all at the moment. But we can create a gate on it to make it more interesting. So basically every note that is played now in that rhythmic pattern has a length of 100. So the maximum length of that 16th and 8th note. So we can also say, hey, make it, for instance, 50. If you double click it, then it makes it a half. And now the notes are already in the type of a trance gate. But you can also say, hey, I want to the third note longer. So with just a few mouse clicks, you already created a trance gate that you can give basically any rhythm you like. If you want a different rhythm, for instance, 16 again, and 2 16th again, for instance. So let's remove those 2 steps again. So a very basic standard trance gate, and you can give it any rhythm you like and any value you like, and that can drastically change the way the trance gate sounds. You can also say to the second note, hey, I want that note is skipped. Let's set a small reverb on top of it. So lots of possibilities to create your own rhythms and gates that you like. And the next part we are going to look at is the step sequencer. And you can give it any value that you want, between 1 and 100. And the best part of this is that you can assign it to anything you like. So now I've created a pattern where the second note is always, or the second step is always the max value, and the others are, well, minus or a little bit plus values. And we can assign that to any parameter. Now, let's do that, for instance, to the cutoff. And let's say that we want to have the cutoff influenced by that step sequence that we just created. So just click on the modulation matrix, the plus sign. And in the generator section, we have a step sequence lane. And let's give it the maximum amount. And you see that the orange value, let's give it a little bit more intensity, it's jumping based on that value. Give it a little bit more steps to make it more clear. Okay, that sounds really nice, but you also hear one problem. Every time I hit a note, the complete lane starts again at the first step. And you don't want that for this specific kind of behavior. When you hit a note, it should just continue that rhythmic pattern. There's a button for that. That's called sync notes. So if you do it now, and now we can say, hey, this is my real high value, and we don't want to have that every time, but let's add a probability factor of 50% to that. And if you look at it now, then it will occasionally skip this value. And that's really interesting because this way you can create constantly changing kind of patterns this way. So let's set it to 100 again so that it runs always. And then it's a very interesting shape button. And if we say use shape, now it will create those shapes for every step that's there. So let's create a shape button for every step to make it more clear. Let's set all to on. So if you use the shape button now, it will always use the values that's set here because the line is equal. But let's say that we want to create a shape, for instance, something like this. Now it goes slowly from 0 to 78 when it reaches this step. Or down. Or even 2 times. So now those values are influenced by these kind of shapes. So the top one is the maximum value of the specific step, and the way the cell is drawn is the way it goes to 0 or is coming from 0. So that gives you a lot of possibilities. And if we look at the cutoff filter now, you see all kind of interesting movements in the specific cutoff filter. So let's use, for instance, a And because we have a rhythmic pattern, it's also nice to add a delay on top of that. So let's create a simple cross delay. And let's create a more normal. A little bit longer. Yeah, that's better. So this is a nice shape lane to use, and with different kind of length in the notes. And the step sequence is doing a specific pattern on the cutoff for now. So really good. And now we can add some extra layers. And to make it ourselves easy, we are going to use programs and wave sequences that are in the wavestate already available, which you can also use to create your own material. So let's say we want to add something like a rhythm between it, and maybe something like this, the mellotron. Yeah, that looks nice. It doesn't run in sync, and we do want that so that it continues on the same cell. And we just learned that the sync nodes does that it continues whenever you hit a new node on the active cell. So activate sync nodes for this one too, and then it's perfectly in sync. Yeah, that's really nice, but we only want the high part of that specific sound. And add that same delay on top of it. A little bit softer. Okay, add a supporting string sound beneath it. For instance, Dionian strings. Yeah, and it would be nice if that is one octave up. And let's add a piano sound. And this is all in the standard wavestate native. You can there's a huge library of programs that you can use to quickly create your own sounds. Let's remove the velocity. Add one octave up. So very easy to create, and I think the Mellow Traveler is quite good, but I want a different kind of wave sequence for that. I like the programming completely of the sound, but I want a different wave sequence, and we can also select one of the wave sequences from this completely large database. Well, I have no idea what we are going to choose, but let's just try something. I want a tempo synced wave sequence, so let's try some of them. A little bit louder. Yeah, that's nice. And you hear these specific samples, and we can also select one of the preset samples to hear if there's something better in there. Yeah, this one is really nice. So just within a few clicks, I selected a program called Melody Traveler. I selected a preset of a wave sequence pops and arbs. And within that specific preset, I've changed the sample lane to a preset called Razor Pad 1. And then you get something like this when you combine it. So in this way you can create your own material, and the gate and step sequence are really good for those kind of things to use in the wave state. So let me load up one of the presets I created with this technique. Piano train. This is basically the same but I used different kind of step sequences and different kind of shapes. And I use a band pass filter for this. But the sample is now called Ashland. Same kind of technique. The Dionian strings and the acoustic piano, and then it sounds like this. So this is done exactly in the same way as you've just heard before, but I spent a little bit more time with this specific layer to create something that I like. And well, that's the beauty part of the wavestate native. It's just one big playing area to create anything you have in mind. And this gives a specific feeling to that piano pad sound that we created from those factory presets, and that makes a big difference. And this is something creative that you can think of yourself by creating those kind of movements through the gate and step sequencer lanes. So hope this helps, and let's see you in the new tutorial.